California's Communities is supported by the California Redevelopment Association Foundation, a statewide organization made up of cities, counties, nonprofits, and private businesses sharing a common goal of bringing renewed life to neighborhoods and downtowns by expanding local businesses, creating jobs, building affordable housing, restoring buildings, and improving public facilities and infrastructure. Redevelopment, building better communities throughout California.
It's one of the fastest growing communities in California. Located right off Interstate 15 in Riverside County, Temecula is a modern, vibrant community with a little over 100,000 residents. Residents who moved here not only for the amenities, but for the lifestyle. And part of that lifestyle is reflected in Old Town Temecula, which is full of history, charm, and an energy of its own. And to tap into all that history, charm, and energy, I ended up spending 2 days there, seeing the sights, meeting the people, and having a great time in Old Town Temecula.
The town was laid out in about the 1880s. There was actually a rail spur that came through, and then it really took off right around the turn of the century when the surrounding area was bought up as a large cattle ranch. And the town side of Temecula, what we refer to as Old Town today, became the support mechanism for the Vail Cattle Ranch.
Okay, so this really was a cowboy Old West town.
Very much so.
And it remained this way through the 1920s, 30s, 40s, 50s. It was almost like it was frozen in time.
We were off the beaten path, and the Vail Ranch was sold and started becoming a master plan community in the mid 60s to the late 60s. And the real construction boom out here came in the early 80s.
Okay, let's talk about the old history first, because we're not here by chance. We're here on the corner of Main and Front Street, because this is one of the original old buildings of Temecula. What are we looking at? It says the bank.
Yes, this was the town's original bank. It was here to store all the money that supported the ranch. And I'm sure there were other depositors in the bank, but primarily it was here to support the ranch. And it was built in 1910, and it's unique because not only of its architectural style, but it's a cast-in-place concrete building.
And a beautiful old historic building it is, but look right over here. This is nice too, and it says up on the side it was built in 1896, and then in 1904 it became an inn. And you told me lots of colorful stories about this place as well.
Yes, this during Prohibition, this was the Blind Pig. So if you
wait a minute, it was the what?
It was called the Blind Pig. And that was the code word. If you came into town and you wanted a drink, you just went in and asked for a blind pig, and that's how you knew that they would serve you and that you wanted to be served.
Didn't you tell me some people were shot in here?
Yeah, at the turn of the century, I think it was on a Christmas Eve, and some local colorful people had been perhaps had too much to drink, and they were having a bet with each other, and one guy was going to kiss the other guy's rear end, and when the guy bent over, he burned him with a cigar. And he didn't take too kindly to that.
Boy, that's the wildest story I've heard so far. All right, let's see. We got right over here. I didn't realize the history behind this till you told me. This was also one of your old buildings.
Yes, like a lot of the buildings, they all started in some manner of a retail or mercantile or general store, but for many years, and the colorful history of this was, it was the Long Shadow Saloon.
Lots of saloons, lots of drinking, lots of gunfights here. This was a Wild West town.
If you go in and you look closely, you can still see the gunshots in the rafters.
Wow. And then right down here, we've got another building that looks old, this old brick building down here.
That's the Mercantile Building. That's one of the oldest buildings in town. That was built in the about 1890. And it's got an interesting story. The lot was actually won in like a lotto contest. And he wanted to do a mercantile building, so he went out to an abandoned brickyard, collected all the bricks, built the shell of the building, and then the storefronts were ordered mail ordered, similar to a Sears catalog.
So that's a mail order storefront.
That is. And when we go look at it closely, you can see all the cast iron steel that was used in it.
Wow. And what about the building across the street? Driving into town, that one caught my eye because that has an old look to it too.
Yeah, that building is the third iteration, but it's been there for many years, and it was one of the original hotels.
Now it gets interesting, because we've talked about the history of some of these old buildings in Old Town Temecula. We were walking down the street. I saw this old building right next to the old bank building. I asked you about its history, and you told me this isn't an old building.
No, actually these buildings were built in the mid-1980s by a local developer, Bob Morris. And what Bob would do is he'd travel all across the western United States and he'd salvage old buildings. So the building was built in the 1980s, but the material dates back to the turn of the century.
It looks old.
Yes, very much so.
And this building and the others built like it back in the 1980s, this is what started this whole idea behind today's Old Town Temecula. What's that all about?
Well, fortunately, we had someone like Bob Morris that had a vision and had an idea, and he had a great attention to detail and very consistent with what he did. And that really became the groundwork. So when we incorporated in 1989, one of the first things we did was develop what's called a specific plan, and that was a way to preserve and enhance this Western style of development, this Western style of building, and then other period-appropriate architecture. We've taken old stucco boxes that were Napa Auto Parts store and made them look like a turn-of-the-century Western building.
Yeah.
And we did that using redevelopment dollars in what we call a facade improvement program.
So the idea was all these buildings that were kind of nondescript and didn't fit any particular time period, you paid them, helped them to redo the fronts of their buildings and develop a theme.
We gave them that financial incentive to take those new plans, those new design guidelines, and put them in place on their buildings.
Okay, we're standing in front of one of those new old buildings built back in the 1980s, and right up over this is this huge, beautiful new building, and there's a great story behind what this community theater is all about.
Yes, that's our community theater, and it was very important for the city council to locate the theater where they wanted the people to come. So it really became an anchor for Old Town, so that people would come to see the show, would come and have dinner or drinks before the show, stay for coffee or dinner after the show, and that theater is booked out about 18 months in advance.
So it was important to have the new, it's Old Town Temecula Community Theater located in Old Town, along with, I think you have a
we
museum
have the Children's Museum, and we also have a historical museum. And again, like the theater, the Children's Museum, there's lots of places in town we may have located that, but it was a very concerted effort by the city council to reinvest in Old Town.
In this sense, it gives a sense of place here. This is the center of a fast-growing town.
What we are trying to do is create that downtown feel. It will always be Old Town, but we want to recreate that downtown feel. One of the exciting things that we're doing in the future is we're going to be relocating our Civic Center to Old Town. And in addition to that, we've also invested a lot of our affordable housing dollars to increase the number of residential units in Old Town.
So Old Town is not just going to be old, it's going to be vibrant and alive.
Yes, absolutely. It's going to be a complete residential, commercial, restaurants, offices, civic uses. It'll be a full-service district.
Now this is totally spontaneous. We've never met. You just were driving by here, rolled down your window, and what did you say?
Oh my God, this is the cutest little town, and I've never been here, and what should we look for and see?
What are you here for?
Well, we're not sure. We're on our way home from La Jolla to Palm Desert, and we took a little side trip, and here we are.
And here you are in the middle of Old Town Temecula.
It's so cute, and I know you're going to tell me something wonderful to do.
Tell her something wonderful to do.
There's great shopping. Do you like to cook?
Love to cook.
We've got olive oil company. We have the spice shop. We have a cheese shop, and wine shop, so you can gather up your food and take it home and cook it. There's great restaurants here and great shopping.
Where? I'm going right now.
You can park anywhere and just start walking up and down the street.
A picture is worth 1,000 words, because we're standing here in front of the 4th Street Antiques. Looks old to me.
We have you fooled again, Huell. This building was, for many, the building's pretty old, but it was an old stucco box. It was an old Napa Auto Parts store. And this was one of our first large facade improvements.
When did you do this?
This was done in the late 90s.
Okay, and these ladies work inside. The question is, when people come in off the street, do they think they're coming into an old historic building?
Yes, they do, because most of the buildings around here look that way.
Yeah, and what do you tell them when they come in there?
I tell them it's an old Napa Auto Parts store.
You don't embellish it a little bit more and tell them it was an old saloon where people had shootouts?
I should.
I'll do that after this.
Yeah, we have shootouts in the parking lot over here.
You have what?
Shootouts in the parking lot over here when they
recently or back?
When they do the reenactments.
Oh.
Yeah, it's great fun. They get all dressed up in the period costumes.
Some of our customers have shootouts over stuff in the store.
Yeah.
Right off of Front Street. Now this looks new to me.
Well, it is new. This is one of our redevelopment projects, and although it's not Western, it's still in keeping with the spirit of the turn-of-the-century town.
I got you. So as the town spread out,
right,
it doesn't always have to look old Western clapboard.
Towns aren't built all in one decade, and so if you look at Front and Main as being the heart of the town with the Western style of development, then over the decades into the 20s and 30s,
moves out.
You'd have this historical but brick-looking building.
Okay, these are people living in Old Town?
Yeah, this is one of the areas that is important to us to bring more residential units into Old Town.
To live here.
To live here. So
then we got the old Hotel Palomar, which is obviously historic, and then right over here, the Mad Madeline's Grill, which was one of the hot spots in town. That's got the Old West look to it.
Best hamburgers in Riverside County year after year.
But look, it looks Old West.
Yes, yes. And again, through the facade improvement program, people have been able to keep up with the painting of the building and reinforcing that Western style.
Give us a thumbs up, fellas. They're having lunch in Old Town, Temecula. I think some of them go back to the Old West as well. We found a VIP. Your name, sir, is?
My name is Carlos Palma.
And you are the?
President of the Old Town Business Association.
Old Town Business Association. This look, this feel has to be good for business.
Absolutely. About 40 years ago, we had our first business association. My stepfather was the first president of it, and their vision was to maintain the old look of the town here.
And it's changed a lot. It's gotten better, hasn't it, over the years?
It's gotten better and better. Now it's becoming a vibrant community. We still like to have the old feeling of the Old West, but with new buildings and new businesses coming in.
Nice mix.
It's a really nice mix. Yes,
we met some ladies driving into town for the first time today who said, what a cute little town. Where can we go park and what can we buy? That's the kind of thing you like to hear, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. We got people coming here from all over the world. Japan, Australia, France, Italy, all over the United States, and everybody comes here. They love our town.
Old Town.
Old Town. Old Town, yes.
Well, it's one thing to talk about the history of Temecula. It's another to see remnants of it up close and personal. So we've come to the Temecula Valley Museum. I've hooked up with Wendell Ott.
Yes, sir.
And boy, you got a room full of stuff here, a building full of historic artifacts.
That's it.
Starting with the Native American history and the name of that tribe.
These are called the Sanyo Indians. They were named by the missionaries after the mission San Luis Rey, so that's where the word comes from, Luiseño. And they represented a number of tribes that lived in this area.
So there were a lot of Native Americans living
Quite
here.
a few.
Then we've got down here What era does this represent right here?
Well, this represents the first pioneers who came into the valley and started ranching and agriculture
Back in
the 1800s.
early to mid 1800s.
Yeah. Mhm.
Because over here, this is the ranch we've heard about.
Right.
The Vail Ranch, and you've got a whole section of the museum set aside. So this must have really been a very important part of the history of Temecula.
This is the key part. This is the defining moment for the history of Temecula.
Why do you say that?
Well, because it kind of struggled for a number of years trying to find what was going to be economically viable for this area. And then when the Vail Ranch came in 1904, from then on till 1964, they were the economy, and they provided all of the structure for the community.
How big a ranch was this?
87,000 acres.
And it was a cattle ranch.
It was primarily a cattle ranch, but they had agriculture, they had other farm animals as well.
Boy, that was a big, for some reason I thought it had come in before then, but it didn't come in until 1904.
Yeah, and actually Vail started ranching earlier. He started in Arizona. He had land in over by Warner Springs. He had land on the Santa Rosa Island, and it was quite a large empire that Vail created.
And it was here till 1964, and this is my favorite exhibit in the entire museum, because this shows Old Town Temecula right here as it was back in what period?
This is about 1915, right, what we're looking at. Has the bank, has the Welty Hotel, the Mercantile, the general store.
Boy, it was just a little crossroads.
Yeah, it was a small town, and you can see the railroad, which is one thing we don't even think about today, but the railroad did come through here.
And it remained kind of like this way up until the 1950s and 60s.
Yeah, there was small population here, just largely the ranch hands, yeah.
That was it?
That was it. A few business owners.
So everything we've seen, all this development has taken place since the Vail Ranch left in the 1960s.
That's it.
That's almost impossible to believe.
That's a significant growth, isn't it? Yeah, it is. It's tremendous growth, and it's been well managed, I might add. I think we're very fortunate.
Now it gets real interesting. Palumbo's Restaurante, and I'm standing here. Edie Palumbo is watering her plants out in front of her restaurante. Now, Edie, this would not have been part of Old Town historic Temecula, would it?
Well,
something this fancy.
I think that a spaghetti western fits right into Old Town.
How do you fit into Old Town? Because you got this beautiful big Dalton building here,
yes,
and we're just a half a block off the old street with the little western wooden building.
Well, that was the charm that brought us to Old Town. I love the old buildings. I love the antique shops. I love I just love Old Town.
The ambiance.
The ambiance, that's correct.
Well, now, how does this fit together? How do the two mesh together?
Well, I think we fit real well together. I think it's nice to bring the new with the old. And we tried to bring in the charm of old world recipes. We tried to bring in the charm of antiques in the restaurant. And I think we fit real nice. I think we're a nice addition. The old and new fit very well together.
Boy, it smells good in here, and that's because we're now inside the Old Town Spice Merchant's shop. And here's the old spice merchant herself.
Oh, yeah.
Your name is?
Sue Del Bono.
Okay, now what's the deal? Boy, it smells good in here.
Yes, it does. We have over 350 spices and blends. We're in the redevelopment part of Old Town, which is beautiful. The buildings are absolutely gorgeous. Brings a lot of people up the street to see what's going on new in Old Town, so we're very excited about it.
So this is new in Old Town.
Yes.
We're in adjacent Old Town Temecula, right across from Murrieta Creek. We've come to a place. Bob, what's the name of this place?
Granny's Attic Antique Mall.
Granny's Attic and Antique Mall, and this place is huge. How big is Granny's Attic?
We are 30,000 square feet.
Packed.
Packed.
Full
of merchandise.
And it's all antique.
It's antiques and collectibles, and we do our best to make sure it's antiques.
All right, now look what we got here. We got an old Model T, and then look over here. Now this is just one corner of Granny's attic. We have an old buggy over here, a Jeep, an Army Jeep over here. Come on, Bob. We got a buffalo head over here. We've got, this place has a little bit of everything in it.
It does.
Where do you get all this stuff?
Oh, across the country.
Give us a wave. You've got is this a library here?
This is our library.
What's the deal?
Well, we want a place that customers can sit down, relax, grab a book, look at it, and if they want, most of them are $5.
They can buy the book if they like it.
You bet.
They can also get a haircut over here.
Yeah, we're still looking. That barber, he's slowed down a bit. He's not able to give a good haircut.
You've got a whole thing set up here. Look back in here.
We have
a switchboard. Look at this.
That's a 40s switchboard, and that's Ernestine.
Ernestine at the switchboard.
Dependable employees.
And you've got this great old Coke machine. It says Cokes are a dime. They're not still a dime, are they, Bob?
No, we can't quite do it for a dime, but I found this in Texas, and help yourself, sir.
All right, now here's who we came to see. Your name, you're standing right in front of this beautiful display, and I bet this is one of the most popular places in this whole building.
It is. It is one of the, and we have just about every kind of soda you can think of. We have over 100 kinds of sodas, and they're all in the old-fashioned bottles.
All the old-timey sodas. So this takes you back in time as well when you're here looking at all these, as Bob says, collectibles.
Right. And this brings back a bunch of collectible memories.
Absolutely. Well, let's look right over here, because if you want to expand beyond the soft drinks, this is the old-fashioned candy counter, and you got the old-fashioned candy here.
We certainly do. This is Fizzies. It was a drink. This was way before Kool-Aid. And that, you just put it in, drop it in the water and fizz it up and makes a drink, so it's like a carbonated drink.
And looking at all these old labels, people remember this old stuff, don't they?
Right. They all say, oh, remember when they had this? Remember when they had that? Oh, I was just a kid when I got that. So yes, it brings back a lot of old memories. A lot of people have just a bunch of fun just remembering everything when they were a kid.
So when you come to Old Town Temecula, you can have old-timey feelings.
Right.
Your taste buds remember the old-timey taste and smells.
That's right. You have a good time here. I know some people, they say, oh, the bit of honey, I don't know if I can do that now. I don't want to pull out my dentures.
Okay, we've come inside to cool off. We've come to the Temecula Olive Oil Company in the old Blind Pig building. This is where they used to have fights and shootouts and all kind of things here.
Maybe even a lady of the night might have found her way in here.
The rich history of Temecula. Now we're here to look at your olive oil, and that goes back to part of Temecula's history as well, right?
It does. Yeah, we pick from trees that are well over 100 years old, so there is some history in this area.
Right,
California
here
in general.
In this area.
Yep. Exactly.
Wow, so you got good olive oil here.
We think so.
And look over here. Look who's here, the ladies we ran into when you were pulling into town. You found the olive oil place.
We found a clothing store.
What, did you just drink some olive oil?
With vinegar, it's fabulous. We found a great clothing store, and now we're going to go have really good burgers because we heard Mad Madeline's has great burgers.
We saw it down there. You're going to have fun. So you're having a good time in Old Town.
Fabulous. Fabulous time.
Let's see you shoot some more of that olive oil.
Okay, we just...
Excellent. They used to shoot a lot more than olive oil in this building.
I'm worried about that.
From olive oil to jerky, we've come right next door. We're still in the old Blind Pig building, and we're standing in front of the...
Great Wall of Jerky.
The Great Wall of Jerky. Your name is?
Evelyn Honey.
Okay, these are your kids. This is a family business.
It is.
The olive oil, they told us, they've got olive trees in this area over 100 years old. Jerky goes back to the Old West. The old cowboys would be eating on jerky, wouldn't they?
They would. I don't have 100-year-old cows, but I do have good jerky.
What kind of jerky?
We have beef, turkey, buffalo, venison, and ostrich.
Oh, boy.
And we carry some exotics like alligator and kangaroo.
Oh, boy.
But our jerky, it's made the old Western way. Basically, you just marinate it and season it, and you dry it in an oven, or you can put it on nets and let it dry.
Just like the cowboys did.
Just like the cowboys.
You've got it?
Yeah, there it is.
I can smell it.
This is our most traditional flavor, which is the natural beef.
So you just
bite it. Just like that.
It's like eating a saddle.
No, ours is actually softer than most saddles.
When you come down Front Street into Old Town Temecula, look what's over the highway here. Temecula, established 1859, and here to tell us about it, Robert Morris, you're the guy that created these entranceways to the city. What is this all about?
Well, when we started our redevelopment, we needed the archways to bring us into Old Town. So I was designing and all for about 2 years. And
how did you decide what's up there? You got the stagecoach, you got cattle, you got a little bit of everything going.
The phases that Temecula went through and to what it is today. And on the center part was the Indian. It's a legend that was sent out to name the town. So I put him looking down into the valley.
Is that a Native American name, Temecula?
Yeah, it was Temuku at one time, where it means where the sun shines through the mist. You'll see that in one of the medallions.
Yeah, because you've got medallions that you designed all through Old Town. And what's on the medallion?
Well, it shows back at the time when Temecula was named, to the stagecoach, to the cattle country, than today.
So this is kind of like a history lesson when you visit Old Town, isn't it?
It sure is. Yeah, there's a lot of history here.
We're ending up our day in Old Town Temecula here in front of this medallion that Robert designed, and it once again re-emphasizes how Temecula got its name.
That's true, and it's a legend. Natasha was sent out, an Indian, to name the different areas, and as he looked down into the valley, he saw where the sun shined through the mist, and he called it Timuku. And then he rode away, supposedly turned into a rock, and an eagle flew away. So that was the legend.
That's the legend right here on the corner of Front and Main Street. Thank you, sir, for all the work, the good work you've done down here. Thank you, sir, for this tour of Old Town. We've had beef jerky, which is historic. We've had some olive oil, which is historic. We're ending up with a bottle of wine because Temecula is also wine country, right?
That's right.
And we are leaving here with this wonderful sense of place, this Old Town Temecula, which is old, which is new, which has history, which has energy, and has a vibrant sense of activity going on here. You definitely know when you're in Old Town Temecula. This is a wonderful, wonderful place. We've had a great day here.
California's Communities is supported by the California Redevelopment Association Foundation, a statewide organization made up of cities, counties, nonprofits, and private businesses sharing a common goal of bringing renewed life to neighborhoods and downtowns by expanding local businesses, creating jobs, building affordable housing, restoring buildings, and improving public facilities and infrastructure. Redevelopment, building better communities throughout California.